because this is where he started out. You can see that there are so many miniaturized hairs on the hairline, and even the existing hair in the midsection looks kind of like frizzy. I would say he looks like he has a decent donor area. Maybe this is a haircut. Maybe he had a haircut too. Probably a fade. I don't know. Yeah, look at that. That's a pretty good improvement. It's a really good improvement in terms of density too. You don't see that many baby hairs, so it could be the case that a lot of those hairs transitioned from vellus. Hey guys, before we continue this video, I would like to mention that we now have liposomal minoxidil sulfate on my website, folligens.com, FOLLIGENZ.com, and if the order queue is available and open, you can order it there. We're running it as a cosmetic. There are other sort of botanicals inside of this particular topical that are pretty helpful when it comes to conditioning the hair. So that's at folligens.com, FOLLIGENZ.com. That's FOLLIGENZ.com. Go check it out and maybe even try it out. See you there. Hello everyone and welcome back to yet another hair loss review video, or I guess hair progress review video. And we're back on the Trestless subreddit, and we're going to be looking at somebody's transformation, this guy's transformation over here on the screen, in just the span of about a year. So the title of this post is, quote, "Thin 11 months, wish I started earlier," unquote. So let's go to his write-up in the description over here. We can see that he says that he takes a thin tablet of 1.25 milligram every day, and he's a male. He's 26 years old, and the blue shirt was from before and the brown is after. So let's try to keep track of his shirt color to see what's before and what's after. Obviously, before would be a year ago, and after would be right now, 11 months into his treatment. It doesn't look like he has written anything else in terms of side effects, if he had any, but he says over here that he's considering starting with oral minoxidil or getting a hair transplant. So, right away, let's just look at his hair. We can see that he is, he's like a Norwood 4, right? He's lost a lot of his temporal points. His hairline is very sparse. However, it does look like from this angle he has a decent enough donor area to get a good hair transplant. But the issue is that, so many people are impatient. You want to see what kind of regrowth you may get by using treatment, because that can save you tons of grafts and also money. But it would be kind of a shame to transplant into areas that could be recovered with treatment, because once you transplant hairs into that area, it's going to destroy the native hair follicles. So that's always something to kind of keep in mind. But you can see this is his baseline, right? So again, remember, the blue shirt is before and the brown shirt is his after. So he's starting from a pretty rough spot. Let's go on to the next picture in the camera roll, and this is the after. This is the after. So let's try to get a side-by-side, or maybe just a tab-by-tab, because I'm going between tabs. Let's try to get a tab-by-tab sort of look at his hair. One thing that sticks out to me is that in this picture over here, there's more volume at the top of his scalp, right? Now, maybe he is Norwood frauding, a new term that I'm terming, I guess you can say, but he's kind of Norwood frauding in the sense that we can't really see his hairline. It could be some sort of stylistic kind of, comb over in some ways, but really, and I say this so many times, people have made it a saying, but you're not going to get this kind of coverage without treatment, because this is where he started out. You can see that there are so many miniaturized hairs on the hairline, and even the existing hair in the midsection looks kind of like frizzy a bit, and that's because as the hair miniaturizes, it tends to lose its texture, its sort of pattern. And this is what you can generally expect. But if you get on treatment, as it builds up weight, hair weight, and as it gets a decent amount of length, you can get some good coverage, and you can Norwood fraud your way into looking as if you were a Norwood 1. Over here, it looks like he's a Norwood 1. But obviously, we'll get some more insights as he pulls back his hairline. But really good recovery just right off the bat. So let's go back to the camera roll. So, okay, this is a kind of a better view. So this is his before. Let's get a look over here. So we can see that the thinning kind of goes into it's kind of like a asymmetrical kind of thinning. Maybe he, styled his hair in a bit of a weird way. But you can see that there's lots of miniaturized hairs, right? But at the same time, there are hairs that are savable. Now, it's kind of hard to see because he does have like blonde hair and he's in a room with harsh lighting. So it makes whatever hair that is supposed to be kind of intermediate or maybe very early into the sort of vellus kind of look a bit worse. But you can clearly see that there are some hairs that are still metabolically active, some hair follicles that are still growing hairs that could potentially be saved. And that's what's important here. They could potentially be saved by getting on some sort of intervention. And so far, he's only used 1 milligram, around 1 milligram of oral minoxidil. But this is the extent of his thinning, right? So let's go on to the next picture in the camera roll. And, this is a fair sort of comparison, right? You do have more hairs that have kind of, I guess, become intermediate. Again, there's some sort of comb over technique going on here, to be fair, but it still looks like it's maintaining more coverage because the hairs themselves generally have improved in quality, right? So maybe in the next pictures, we might be able to see his hairline with him pulling back his hair. So let's go on to the next picture. Okay, so like I said, his hairline actually isn't that bad. I thought it was going to be a bit worse. So you can see the extent to which he was miniaturizing along his hairline, right? All these small hairs, these baby hairs. It looks like he has the shape of, if I'm going to be fair, maybe a Norwood 2, especially on this left-hand side or his left-hand side, my right. Maybe like a Norwood 2 over here, but this one looks pretty straight, like a Norwood 1. So, yeah, maybe I'm being a bit of a dickhead saying that he's Norwood frauding. It could be the case that over here, this is the picture that we saw before. It could be the case that he's not really combing over or anything like that, or at least too much. It's probably the case that he increased some hair count density along his hairline and midsection. So maybe this isn't a stylistic or just purely a unique way of frauding and covering up bald patches. Maybe this is a legitimate improvement. So this is his baseline for his hairline. Let's look at the next picture over here. And by the way, guys, you can always let me know how you think in the comments. So this is his hairline over here, and it's a, pretty good hairline, right? Like, again, I would say still the same Norwood kind of 2-ish on his left-hand side, my right-hand side, and Norwood 1 on his, or my left-hand side, his right-hand side. So, yeah, look at that. That's a pretty good improvement. It's a really good improvement in terms of density, too. You don't see that many baby hairs, so it could be the case that a lot of those hairs transitioned from vellus to terminal or intermediate hairs. And they've picked up some pigment, too. You can see that it's pretty... It's more uniformed in color, right? It's darker and longer along the hairline. So this is a good improvement, and I am going to take back what I said. I don't think this is a Norwood fraud. I think he actually made some decent amount of progress. And that's what happens when you take 5 alpha reductase inhibitors to lower that pesky scalp DHT. So let's go on to the next picture. So this is his crown. So this is his baseline for his crown. It isn't that bad, right? Now, if he was standing under harsh light, it would look way worse. So always keep that in mind. But the crown doesn't look that bad. In fact, this has me kind of looking at his earlier pictures and taking into consideration how harsh the lighting was, right? Now, definitely over here, his hairline was cooked, right? But over here, maybe the lighting kind of makes it, his midsection look worse, or this like part area over here. But overall, looking at his crown, his baseline, you can see the problem areas, right? Midsection is a bit, reduced in density. His little whirl over here, there is some scalp show. So let's see the improvement he made after taking finasteride. I mean, just it's crazy. It looks crazy. The amount of hair, like the density, just increased. It's kind of like a bird's nest. Like, look at that. Very thick, healthy hairs, lots of like just width to them, right? They just look more healthy. So yeah, like you're not. I keep saying this, but you're not going to get that kind of improvement with just not doing anything, right? You have to take some sort of treatment intervention, and that's what he did. And it looks very, very dense and healthy. So good on him. Okay, so this is another angle of his hairline, so we can see his temporal points. Let's have a look in the bigger view. Yeah, like he doesn't really have that sort of edge, right? That like peak on his hairline, on his temple over here, his temporal point. But you can see like he was dealing with a lot of frontal issues, right? That's where most of the androgenetic alopecia was hitting him. And still, even so, I would say he looks like he has a decent donor area. Maybe this is a haircut. Maybe he had a haircut too. Probably a fade. I don't know. If he didn't have a fade, then this would be retrograde, but I think he had maybe a haircut, on the sides. So that could also be affecting the judgment a bit. Next picture over here. Not a good comparison, but I guess it's fair. Yeah, it looks like his hair is in layers, right? So I don't know if he got a haircut, but you can see that some of the temporal points grew back, like this edge over here. So there's more hair over there, right? And that's what really matters. So go over here, and this is just a frontal view, and it looks, pretty normal. Frontal view looks good. Comparing that to his baseline over here, yeah, just a real improvement that he made. A good improvement, rather. But there are some weird things that I'm probably going to point out. I'm going to be a bit critical over here. I don't know if. Where is it? Where's the picture? If this crown picture was taken. I don't know, guys. This is kind of weird. Let me know what you think, but I don't know if this crown picture was taken on the same day he took this picture, because the density looks unreal. It looks crazy. So I don't know. Maybe I'm going to put a little bit of like. I'm not going to say he's faking anything, right? I can't really say that. But it does look, just to me, like kind of wiggish. Maybe I'm being an asshole. Let me know if I'm being an asshole in the comments section. It looks kind of wiggish to me, like a system. In this particular picture, I'm not saying this is a system over here, right? And obviously, this is a major improvement from this picture over here, right? But just when you're looking at the crown, maybe he grew out his hair a bit more over here. It just looks kind of weird to me. That's all I'm saying. But overall, if I had to just grade his general improvement, yeah, this is like a sort of realistic improvement you can make when you catch your hair loss relatively early. And I think he did a good job, right? Just taking medication, being proactive. Now, it's a wonder how things would look for him if he actually used topical or oral minoxidil. And with that being said, for fuller looking hair, I started a company called Folligens, FOLLIGENZ.com. And right now we have liposomal minoxidil sulfate over here at a 10% concentration, as well as a 5% concentration over here. Now, we're running it as a cosmetic. This is liposomal minoxidil sulfate. There are no propylene glycol sort of alternatives or any propylene glycol in this solution, and no drying alcohols as well. It dries pretty quickly. There are phospholipid liposomes, stabilized minoxidil sulfate, glycerin, and other sort of, emulsifying agents that keep things stable. So if you want to try it out, please, you're welcome to go try it out. Go check it out and see how things might work for you. That is FOLLIGENZ.com. I started the company, and yeah, try it out, check it out. But going back to the post over here, if we look at the comment section, everyone's like giving him praise, they're congratulating him. Of course, you're going to have somebody asking, quote, how's your Johnson? Unquote. And somebody says Brian. So obviously they're talking about if he still has erections or whatever. But overall, right, if we're just going to look at this improvement, I would say it's pretty realistic. And guys, if you're not on treatment, first off, why are you watching this video? Okay, maybe you want to, learn more about finasteride and dutasteride, but I have to urge you, get started and improve your life, man. That's all I can say. Anyway, thanks for watching this video, guys, and I hope to see you in the next one. Peace out.